Buckle up, excellence junkies, because this podcast is definitely for you. Welcome to Rocket Fuel. Do you wish that you could surround yourself with people that love to kick ass just like you? Well, come to my party, baby, and meet some of the brightest stars in the entrepreneurial galaxy, because it is my mission to give these entrepreneurs a platform to declare what they are on this planet to accomplish and to show you why they are rocket fuel. And we're live, guys. Oh my goodness. Woo-hoo. You are up for a really, really powerful episode today, because we are going to talk about, I'm going to talk to those business owners, those entrepreneurs, especially the ladies, right? Where we're like, okay, I really need to do more video, or I need to fix my logo or my website, or I really need to get new headshots, but I don't know how I want to represent myself. This happens to so many of us, and it circles around branding. Like, we think of it as like a tactical decision, like, oh, I need to do the this, the this, but we get stuck doing those things because we don't know how we want people to understand and see who we are. And so today we have an extremely talented expert, Amanda Goff. She is what we shall say the head visual ninja over at Silver Keys Media. And I love that so much, Amanda. But your mission is to help business owners, and specifically women business owners, actually understand what their foundational story and branding is, so that it kind of fuels all that. So tell me a little bit more about your background and like how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and chat with you. Yeah, so I have a background in filmmaking and photography and broadcast communications. So when I started my business, I wanted to be a visual storyteller. So that meant I wanted to create content to visually represent a story for a brand or a business. And what happened is I started down that path, and in order to be, a responsible business owner and provide my clients with something that was a good tool that would really represent who they are, I developed a question system that would ask some branding questions. I had a background in branding and marketing, and so I really understood how to take the visuals and apply them. And I started to realize that many business owners, if it was a video, they're like, well, my coach says I need a video, or my web designer says I need a video. And you're like, okay. Or even their headshot. Well, I just need something that looks good. And it's like, well, I can do that for you. However, if it doesn't match your brand, if it doesn't match your story, and you're going to have all these pieces all over the place that is fractured, you're going to cause confusion. You're going to cause brand confusion or message confusion. And so that's when I realized I really needed to develop a system that if I hit that point, we could say, okay, hold on a moment. You want to invest in these visuals? Fabulous. I'm happy to help you with that. My team and I can help you with that. But let's step over here for a moment and really go through a little more discovery process and make sure that what we create is truly going to attract the people that you want and tell your story in a way that makes sense. So that's kind of how my background kind of filtered into really focusing on visual brand strategy and just alignment with message and all of that overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what's intriguing is in how you kind of got into the game, is coming from that film background, because that is the essence of story. And so for for folks that, I think it's really intriguing, right? For folks in general that have been experiencing that either disconnect, because sometimes what happens is we just have that list of things that we feel we need to like tactically get done. Like I
Yep.
literally was just at a business planning meeting with other CEOs, and somebody was starting their business, and she said, I guess the first thing for me to do is build a website, right? And we're like, no, the first thing to do is figure out who you are and who you're serving,
Yes.
and all the stuff. But um why is that? Like, why do you think this is kind of endemic to to being an entrepreneur? Like, why do we skip that whole process of planning and branding?
Well, I think the reason why people skip it is there's two things. One is that it takes a little time. It's not like an instantaneous you're going to have all the answers, and you have to kind of reflect on that. I
Mm.
had a couple clients who they did not want to even, they're like, no, my brand is my product, my brand is my service. And I'm like, no, your brand is actually you to
Mm.
start with. And they're like, no, no, no. And I'm like, okay, we got to get over that mindset to really bring that to a space where you're attracting and you're going to work with the people you want to work with. And if you don't look at here first and then how it's in alignment with your ideal client, there's always going to be a disconnect, and there's always going to be a frustration. And then I think
Mm.
there's also fear. There's a fear in being really specific, because there's a fear in, if I'm really specific and I declare this is why I do, this is who, all of those elements, then you feel like you're going to limit. But
Exactly.
but you're
Yeah.
not.
No, no. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you said that. Yeah, there's such a fear of saying, well, if I specify too much who I want to work with, and notice I'm saying who I want to work with, because in the beginning I think we kind of get stuck. And this is why, my understanding is you typically work with people that have been in business for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, at least they've seen results.
Yeah. You
But
hope.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, otherwise, you need to figure out what it is that what you're offering. But yeah, there gets this point where, one, you've also experienced working with people that you don't really want to work with anymore.
Yes. Yeah, one of my openers when we did a lot more live networking was, I would ask the question, who is a client they want to fire? Because we've all hit that point where we've had a client and we're like, how did I end up with this client? Maybe they're not maybe a bad person or whatever, but you're like, this is not meshing.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? And how do you avoid ending up with those clients again? What are
Mm.
the tactics you need to implement in order to make sure that you're really specific when you're onboarding someone, or even just that initial meeting? Is this really someone who's ideal for me, or do I need to refer them to someone? And again, that fear creeps in, because you're like,
Woo!
oh, why would I turn them away? And it's like, yeah, because you don't want to work with them.
I was gonna say we need to unpack that, because that's scary. That's a
It is.
scary position to be in. A lot of people are like, well, wait a second. You mean I could actually like meet somebody and say, no, I don't think that they're a good fit?
Yeah, absolutely. You should.
Mm. Now, tell us more about that. So for, there may be some people listening that are like, what, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Because we get into this like lack mindset, right? We get into this mindset of like, I just need to survive, and I'm going to take anybody that'll give me money,
Mhm.
but what's the downside of doing that?
Well, the downside is that it sucks the joy out of what you're doing. And
Yeah.
we all have a reason why we're doing what we're doing. We all have a reason why we've created a business or providing a service or a product that solves a problem. And there's a lot of excitement in that when we first start. And we want to keep that excitement alive by really truly helping the right ideal clients within, our focus. And
Mm-hmm.
if you start working, especially service-based or service-based type businesses or even trade businesses, when you start working with people that you don't really align with, then it becomes work and it becomes a drain and could become a dread. Like I
Yeah.
have a client as an example, she's a real estate agent
Mm-hmm.
and she does not like first time home buyers. She just doesn't
Mm.
like, and she doesn't like a lot of hand holding. And when we first met, she was very clear about that, but she was working with them and you could just see the dread and just her body language
Yeah, it's like,
shifted. And so I actually, said, okay, you really just need to make that clear in your marketing of who you want and be okay with that. And then also, what I always tell and have myself is have people in your back pocket that you can refer someone to. If they're not your
Mhm.
ideal client, you look like a rock star saying, this isn't a good fit, but this person will be. And then actually you make an amazing impression in that client's mind that you're best serving them. You're willing to turn them away to make sure they get the best service.
Yes.
And they'll refer someone to you likely
Yeah.
later down the road. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
No.
building for the future, more or less.
Mhm. And the thing is, in that real estate example, there are plenty of already experienced home buyers. So
Mhm.
now she's just making space for more of the right people that are
Yes.
enjoyable. And I mean, I will say when you are working with somebody that's not a right fit, it doesn't mean that they're like a horrible, grouchy,
Yeah.
client. It's just not the right fit, not in your like joy zone. I like, that you mentioned joy there. It it really brings you down, but I find that, like, one really bad match could, just kind of put a cloud over a lot of different things that I'm
Yes.
doing, right? Like, I could come off of a call with a client that's just not the right match, they're not jiving with, like, how how just how I communicate or what I'm trying to help them achieve or any of that stuff,
Mhm.
and then, you go through, like, disappointment or frustration, and
Absolutely.
then you go into the next meeting, and then you're kind of a little grouchy about that, and then it's just kinda like,
Yeah.
ugh, this domino effect. Um, so it's it's the whole bad apple kind of concept, like, it could really
Absolutely.
mess up the bunch.
Absolutely. And it's like I said, it starts to pull the energy, and then you don't have that energy for finding or connecting with more clients that are in your zone
Mhm.
of ideal, you know, match or that
Yeah.
align with you. So, yeah, it's definitely like a catch 22, so to speak, when you start just taking anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's that lack mentality. When we can be specific, I mean, they say you what, the riches are in the niches.
I haven't heard that, I love it.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the riches are in the niches. It really is when we're niche down or very specific, that specificity, it's it does a lot of things. First off, you start aligning with the people you wanna work with, so then you're happy. So then you have energy, and then that people sense that. And
Yes.
the other thing is it actually makes your marketing a lot easier, because when
Yeah.
you know who you want to attract, you're clear on all of your specific pieces, like why you're doing what you're doing. You're able to clearly communicate all of those elements about your brand and your brand messaging, then it's easy. You're not having to grasp for things and go, oh, I've got to do posts
Oh,
today, or I got to do a video, or I got to do this. It's not dread. It's, oh, yeah, I love talking about this. I'm going to talk about
Yeah.
this
Oh, I
today.
get to do. Okay,
Yes.
so we're gonna dive into this a little bit more because I I want to talk more about how when things kind of feel icky and clunky and you get that dread around it, how those are also symptoms of the fact that there's this misalignment. But
Yes.
for my rocketeers that listen, we know that I love for you to be inspired by an episode and make sure that you have something to do as a result of meeting Amanda, right? And understanding like, holy crap, this is why I've been struggling. This is why I didn't like those headshots. This is why I was frustrated with that logo, right? All of it comes from the core of understanding who it is that you want to serve. And so
Mhm.
Amanda put together this great guide on really digging in to ideal client. And you talked about this questionnaire, this list of questions, and man, I can't believe that you added all of that into this piece. So I'm very appreciative there. But this is how you receive it. So I want you to stop if you are a woman business owner specifically, but you're creative, you feel like you kind of know that your brand isn't matching like what you're delivering or the right people, but it's you're getting caught in the logistics, right? You're getting caught in the tactical. And so I would like for you to stop and pull out your cell phone right now to get this guide, because I'm telling you the amount of clarity you will get just from this small episode from this small exercise is going to help you understand why Amanda is so passionate about this, and it allow you to unlock your brand. So what we're going to do is ask you to text RF for Rocket Fuel dash unlock, RF dash unlock to 411321 if you're in the US, right? The phone number is 411321. The message is RF dash unlock. Make sure to provide your email address if you've never texted a catchword before, but instantly in your email inbox, you will receive the key to serving people you love. And this is a guide that Amanda put together that really digs into how to understand who that ideal client is. And by texting this, you're going to get this resource, and you'll be able to also, have access to other resources that are ultimately going to help you grow by creating a visual brand that actually speaks to those people you love, right? That is the criticality. Once you create that brand, it's going to naturally speak to those people. It won't be so much work. I'm not going to forget those of you that are outside of the US. I love you, Rocketeers. So what you're going to do is text to +1 909 741 1321. This is all in the show notes as well. But to +1 909 741 1321, text RF unlock. All right. And once again, make sure to provide that email address. So while people are texting, because I do hope that they stopped. If you're working, if you're listening and working, if you're driving, pull over, right? Because stop. No, because this is, I mean, I feel very strongly about it. This is pretty key because we can get stuck for years in a situation where you're like, okay, I have a bunch of clients that I don't love. What's wrong? And what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my
Mm,
product? Right? Like you get into
yes.
the, maybe I shouldn't be an entrepreneur anymore because it starts feeling icky. And then, oh, I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to do sales because it's starting to feel icky. So tell me more about that. The when it starts to feel bad, what happens? What happens?
Yes. Well, really, what is going on there is that you are lacking that motivation.
Yeah.
And it's really it dries up your passion. It dries up you're feeling the ick, and the people that you work with are gonna start to feel the ick.
Right.
It's like a cold.
Yeah,
You
your
start to feel
referrals
sick.
dry up, right? Because now you're kind of like, when when you are serving those folks.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you ever think about, okay, you go into again, back when we were a little more in person, when we're starting to do a little bit of that.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
thinking back, you're in a room of people, you're surveying the room, And, you see that one person and they don't want to be there. They're not happy to be there.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person that will be like, "Hi, how are you?" Because that's who I am.
Yeah.
But, and hopefully I can help them feel better. But at the same time, most people are just, walking around them because there's this energy. Our bodies have an amazing power to tell a story in itself. That's a whole other talk. And our bodies, we carry our energy, and when we feel ick, it starts to come out, and then it also comes out in our writing. It comes out in our just
Yes.
day-to-day interactions. And so when you're allowing that to happen and not just grabbing onto the fact that we have the ability to have control over that, I think that's really where the sweet spot is for people that I love to work with. Is they're at that point, they're just like, ugh, I know there's something I should be doing and I'm not sure what it is. That's usually why it comes out. I need a new headshot. I need a new this. I need to do that. They're
Yes.
grasping at straws, trying to figure out what will fix this. And really it's like all of us, we have to go back to the basics and go, what's going on?
Yeah.
And what is lying underneath? And it's usually because there's just that lack of clarity. And that's why with this worksheet or workbook, the ideal client for me is the first place I start. When I have a client that if they've hired me just for video or just for a photo shoot, I ask them, who is the audience for this? Who are you wanting to connect? Who, and ask them some other pointed questions. Because if I create a video that's really pretty, but it's attracting, men, it's very masculine, and that person really wants to work with just women, that's not going to be helpful. It's
Yeah.
a great video, or it's a great set of headshots, or a great brand, image lifestyle shoot that they're going to put on their website. But if it doesn't mesh, then they're not going to actually, it's not going to work. And so that ideal client profile workbook that I have, or the ideal client profile that I have in the workbook, walks you through the ability to start identifying that and being very specific. And there's a lot of questions there, but it
There are a
really does
lot of
tone
questions.
it down.
It was golden. I would like, oh, these are some really juicy questions that keep in mind that the desires when you text for this guide, like, go through the exercise. But what I also love is, thank you, Amanda, for putting a link to your calendar, just in case they're kind of stuck, or to talk
Absolutely.
through it. Like, don't sit in the stuckness. And I mean, I feel really, really strongly about what how long the symptoms could last if you don't kind of address this core problem, right? So the thing is to have that awareness of the grasping for straws, that when you're trying to solve those problems, that there's something at the core. And by the way, we go through this process. I've been in business now for 16 years. You're in a constant process of redefining your ideal client. So I don't want anybody to
Absolutely.
think like, oh, well, I've been doing this for 3-4 years, and I'm going to go back to the drawing board. Actually, no, now you're so much more informed with your experiences to be able to choose. It's a very empowering thing that you're doing, Amanda, to be able to help people actually choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you bring that up, because this is something that does shift and change, because as we shift and change in our business, we either shift where and refine the services, refine what we're offering, then we do have to look at our ideal client. Is what I've been trying to connect with, those clients, are they still who I want to connect with? And like last year proved brilliantly, because so many business owners had to shift and change,
Yeah.
and they then had to look at their ideal clients and say, are my ideal clients year and a half ago the same? And often
Yes.
they weren't. So I actually encourage my clients and people in my community that I connect with, that, this is a great time of year to do it. Start planning for next year and review your brand foundation, which this is part of,
Mm,
and see if it's still the same. And is there any minor changes? The more it's like, anything, the more you can refine it, the more you can polish it,
mhm.
the more you're going to be in tune with it, and the more of a powerful tool it's going to be for you.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like that you recommend kind of doing it in that cyclical way as part of your planning process. And you're right with in our post COVID era and now well, hopefully
I
almost
know.
post.
No, it's just the funny that that's what we define everything
Right,
as.
I like the post. But the thing is, there were a lot of epiphanies. Well, first of all, there were unfortunately a lot of businesses lost.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that go into that. I do kind of find that when folks had a little bit more clarity of who they wanted to serve and they were holding on to it, because you wind up getting like really super passionate, right? When
Mhm.
you can clearly understand that person that that you can help, but also that you're going to enjoy helping, it just kind of
Mhm.
infuses an energy into everything, like you were saying. um those people were like holding on, it's like, oh, COVID's beating me up and I'm gonna hold on because I know these
Yes,
people still need help. But then
absolutely.
afterwards, some people are like, ooh, I held on, but I realized I don't really want to do this. And they like completely like switch, and that's okay.
Absolutely. It
It's
was a
okay.
perfect time for us to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, clearly we could talk about this more and more and more. We're coming up to the end of this episode. So I do want to make sure, guys, if you have been listening to this, if you have realized that, you've been getting a little maybe jaded or frustrated, and, not all your clients are like your people, right? And you're like, ooh, gosh. Um, then just stop and go through this exercise. And I think you did a really, really great job, Amanda. I mean, I've been in branding and marketing for a really long time. And so I loved the depth of the questions that you asked. I mean, you're talking about somebody who knows film and stage and all that stuff, right? So she knows storytelling. So text RF unlock to 411321. If you're in the US, you're going to immediately receive this in your email inbox. Just make sure that you provide your email address, right? If we don't ask you for your email address, that means you've texted a catchword before. So yay, right? So text
Woo.
RF unlock to 411321 in the US, and to +1 909 741 1321 if you are outside of the US. Any final words, darling Amanda, about this?
Yes. So really staying on the topic of ideal client, and when you go into this process, just realize that these are the real people. So when you are thinking through who your ideal client is, don't get so stuck in it either of really trying to, refine it to something, very poignant per se. Start with people that you know that you've already worked with, because these are real people. And once you start
Yeah.
realizing that these are real people, you can start having real conversations. And that's where the magic happens, because those real conversations are what actually develop the relationships that will be long-term clients for you.
I love it. And one of those real people is actually you yourself. So many people realize when they write up their ideal client, they're like, wait a
I'm like,
second,
oh, that's me.
that's me.
Exactly.
And like, yeah, oh my goodness. I think that's really important. We think of these exercises as, strategic, and sometimes we disconnect, the personal aspect of it, but
Yeah.
that's really, really important to think of that as the real person that is going to your website, that's watching your Facebook lives or going to Instagram, that's seeing your picture and your headshot. um yeah, and that real person, are they going to say, oh yeah, when they finally meet you, like, yeah, this is a line. This is who I expected, or are they going to be like,
Yeah.
no. Yeah. Thank you so much, Amanda Goff, the founder and head visual ninja. I love that. At Silver Keys Media. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It is clear why you are Rocket Fuel. And for you Rocketeers out there, I hope that you just have an amazing rockin' day. All right now? Bye now. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, every one of our episodes is boosted by a value-packed keyword called a catchword. Yeah. This allows our audiences to text to receive even more value from our guests. So take advantage of that great value. And if you share your expertise by guesting on podcasts or TV or speaking in front of live or digital audiences, then you're leaving anonymous fans behind. So go get a catchword at catchwords.com, KETCH words.com, and use podcast20 as a promo code for 20% off your setup fee. Look, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Rocket Fuel podcast so you never miss your jolt of Rocket Fuel. Until next time, adios.